Security cam 12 shows the mascot's fiberglass head swiveling 15 degrees toward an empty doorway, then back. There's no one in the suit. Over the feed, a voice not in the system whispers, careful and slow, "Don't open." I used to think dark rides were nothing but scheduled lies paint that eats light, motors that believe in their marks, soundtracks that carry you on a leash. I'm 25. Night maintenance in a backstage bay that smells like dust, grease, and dropped popcorn. My job is simple. Swap fuses, rehome animatronics, set the ride control faults, and never open a show scene without 2 people and a lockout tag. Extra rules from Sosa, my lead. Don't answer knocks you can't see, Don. T, step onto the track while the e-stop is up unless you can see the car in front of you, and if the console offers an after hours. Shortcut, say no, even if the park's ghost payroll is watching. He smiled when he said it. The smile didn't stick. Ride control hums at night like a far church. The animatronics in Bay C rest with their jaws mid-vowel and their eyelids. Half-dash taut, the DMX rack breathes quietly through blue LDs. At 11:02 p.m., the thermal label printer for prop tags chatters without my thumb and spits a strip with no asset number. No show sin, just do not open scene doors. Along the edge. Ghost gray digits that aren't the hour. 3:13 a.m. The bay clock says 11:03. I stick the strip under a washer on the bench because paper turns rules into objects. The first odd thing is polite. 2 knuckles touch the Plex window set into the scene door measured, not contraction pop. In the dark beyond the Plex, a mural pirate blindfolded by tape stares past me with hand-painted impatience. My reflection in the Plex arrives half a beat late, with a second head behind my shoulder, tilted toward my ear. Mouth parted on the first half of don't. I blink until plastic remembers it owes me honesty. Ride control wakes a card I didn't call, a white rectangle drifting to the corner of the touchscreen like an apology. Manual bypass for scene 5. The button glows the particular green children trust. I press no and pretend plastic respects tone. The Bay PA system crackles and gives me a voice I haven't earned, slow and careful, as if each word is lowered into place with 2 fingers. Don't open. Not Sosa, not the park's dispatcher. The museum voice cities keep to label bones. I work anyway because hands are a leash. I grease a shoulder actuator that never learned humility. I reset a proximity sensor on the skeleton drummer who bangs out the park's old jingle like an Essa curse. When I test it, the skeleton's mallet hits the tom. And for an instant, the whole Bay Alliance fan's compressor control rack my heartbeat. One long note that finds my teeth and counts them. In that held chord, scene door latch shivers and forgets mischief. My phone buzzes in the drawer where it shouldn't live. Unknown. Confirm scene 5 entry at 3:13. The tiny map sits inside the show building, then behind my chair, then I turn the phone off. It stays lit long enough to flash 3:13 and fold itself back to honesty, like a muscle twitch in glass. I key the walkie to Sosa out of superstition. He answers with a yawn the size of our insurance. All good, he says. Mostly I say, the timestamp on my message hops to 3:13, and back to now like a bad joke trying not to be a family story. Printer's old, he replies. The supervisor's absolution for nights that need priests. Bay C has 3 animatronics on carts, unplugged and harmless. The middle one is the mascot foam body and a fiberglass smile the park made into a plush nightmare with merchandising. My headlamp sweeps the bay, catches the mascot's eye shine, and for one frame the security cam on my bench monitor shows the mascot's jaw ratchet down, then up, like a yawn borrowed from theater. The next frame gives me the stillness I paid admission for. 2 knuckles tap the Plex again. Tap, tap, measured. Patient on the inside of the Plex. Fog blooms into a palm 5 long ovals and a heel slides a patient inch and thins. You can't fog plastic from the show side with the air still like this. I put my own palm to my side without thinking. Through plastic and cold, pressure matches me, not pushy. Just there, as if a hand-through story agrees, we both exist. At 11:19 p.m., the ride track in the dark beyond the door ticks as if a car just learning how to be gravity rolled by very slowly. The bay smell takes on a tiny whiff of river water I didn't invite. The console on the bench offers a different card. Gentler, rehome, animatronic. Scene 5, idle. The yes button waits like a pet learning its name. I power the console down. It brightens for a thoughtful second anyway. Then let's go. The maintenance cam in Scene 5 cuts from static to picture a domed ceiling painted with stars. A rubber idol draped in fake moss, a boat no more honest than a shoe, for one frame. The camera sees a head lean near the lens, tilted toward my left ear, mouth an oval on the first half of don't. Then the feed remembers to be empty. I write quiet night in the paper log, because supervisors like to see that lie in ink. The letters look wet a beat, longer than they should. The label printer coughs a second strip into my palm. Damp at the edges as if letters can sweat. Leaves scene doors closed. The strip's adhesion has faith. Mine borrows it. A whistle threads through the plaster and plywood to clean notes at the pitch a lead. Uses to call for power down without scaring a child. It lands a beat late like a copy of a breath. I do not answer. The animatronic drummer lifts a stick and decides against being clever. At 11:31, the bay lights hiccup and hold. The DMX rack drops to black and remembers itself. Blue LEDs returning one by one, like punctuation. The bay aligns again, fans, compressor, rack. Ribs one held note that turns my jaw into math in that breath. The mascot on the middle cart rotates 5 degrees toward the scene door. Stops. And stares dead plastic at me through paint that has learned to keep secrets. I say no out loud. As if to the room, as if to myself, as if to whatever is practicing me a half beat behind my hands. I check the door into the show corridor because seeing helps roofs stay on. The corridor is a strip of concrete and wires, painted floor lines scuffed to honesty by 1,000 shoes. The backside of Scene 5's flats shows plywood patched like poor skin. The quick view window there fogs a palm from the wrong side and slides an inch. On the concrete at my boots, something small and dry skitters like it has learned to be a crab. Tap dash tap answers from the underside of the scene door. Latch. I go back to the bay because courage gets lonely in corridors. The radio gives me a voice I recognize the way you recognize your own photo. 6 months later, my voice, half a breath off. I'm here. The PA overlaps. Careful, slow, a rule delivered like a fragile object. Leave. Gate closed. At 11:49, the mascot's fiberglass head moves a breath and then forgets it. The security feed on my bench shows Scene 5's boat drifting an inch against its guide tires, even though the main drive sits in the honesty of off. On the Plex, higher palm blooms and slides. I set my hand to it because hands are old animals. Through the plastic, pressure matches, and lets go like a person with good manners at the end of a handshake they did not ask for. The bay door toward. The track knocks twice, exact, polite, like a guest who knows rules. I do not pull the handle. The console behind me whispers in a new tone ride control doesn't own. Don't go in. The only in from here is the track trench and a boat I won't name. At 12:06, it's the maintenance app I forgot to quit for my last lunch break. Lines my dead phone long enough to show a photo from unknown. The bay from above, my shoulders bent over the strip that says do not open scene doors. The analog clock on the wall with its minute hand quietly insisting it is 3:13. No caption. The phone goes black like a fish choosing depth and stays that way. I walk the outside perimeter of the scene. Doors to pretend distance is armor. Scene for laughs and a sound loop meant for 6-year-olds who can still raise their arms over safety bars. Scene 6 is thunder tape hiccups and forgets rain. Under my hand, the steel of Scene 5's latch is colder than steel needs to be indoors. The unlabeled maintenance hatch beside it trembles as if it has learned the first half of a word. At 12:23, the show fire alarm panel in the corridor blinks to a code I haven't studied for. The bay, the corridor, the ride control hum a line into one steady note that tightens my chest exactly enough to make truth legal. In that held breath, Scene 5's door, latch nudges a hair toward open, and remembers shame when my knuckle taps it like a priest tapping a wristwatch in a church you thought was empty. I print a sign because signs are spells. After midnight, no scene entry without stage manager. The tape breathes like a small lung and holds. The bass smells like dust and a damp towel, and something that has just learned to be river. I take the mascot's head in my hands because someone should comfort something. The fiberglass gives under my grip with a complaint that belongs to boats and bathtubs. From inside the head, 2 fingers tap the molded cheek from nowhere. Tap dash. Tapped exact to my pulse. I set it down very gently and step away from the cart because gentleness sometimes counts as leaving. The rest of the hour wears the shape of work you stage for yourself, so your body has something to hold. I coil extension cords as if intention can tangle. I write quiet night again in the log because repeating a lie is how you make it a hymn. The letters look wet and then learn to be history. At 12:41, the bay camera glances left for 1 frame on its own and catches me from an angle nobody mounted. A head leans in from the edge, mouth parted on the first half of "don't." Then the world learns to be a rectangle again. The PA, gentle as a museum guide, steering a hand away from a sarcophagus, gives me its last bedtime rule before the hour with a reputation arrives. Keep the doors closed. I don't open anything. I don't walk the corridor again. I sit at the bench and count inhalations between the DMX rack's breath, reminding my ribs they were hired for this. At 3:13, because some hours apply for hard jobs, every indicator in the bay blinks once and holds the drive cabinet LEDs, the little green threads on the charging carts. The faint exit sign watching us be types of moths. The bay, the corridor, the ride control hum a line into one long note like machines trying prayer. On the plex of scene 5, 2 perfect palms bloom facing each other through plastic and slide together 1 inch before they thin to memory. The maintenance cam in scene 5 shows the rubber idol lifting its chin a degree toward the lens, then remembering obedience. The PA gives me a kindness it didn't know. Keep the doors closed. The console, soothed, forgets its cards and returns to being a tool. Dawn has the color of electrical safety before the park turns the lights on. Guests arrive in clothes that make sense to someone else. Sosa rolls into Bay C with coffee and the posture of a man who has moderated hearings for ghosts. Quiet, he asks. Mostly, I say, and lay the damp strips in his hand. He frowns at "do not open scene doors" like it is a compliance poster we should have invented before compliance existed. Printer's old, he decides. The supervisor's absolution for nights that need a different department. He raps the scene door latch with 2 knuckles and listens like a doctor. Nothing answers that a ledger would accept. Noon, he says. 3 people tags, cameras rolling. If the system invented buttons overnight, we'll uninvent them with paperwork. At noon, in the nice square of the world where daylight pretends to be law, we unlock scene 5 with witnesses. The air inside is only air. The boat sits where boats sit. On the back of the flats, in pencil so thin, it looks like a drawing of a sentence someone not any of us has written. Leave scene doors closed. The letters look pressed up from the other side, the way a hand writes through material when it has learned patience as a weapon. I swap to 2 afternoons later and tell people it's for my brain's posture. Some weeks at 3:13, my apartment radiator knocks twice like a polite stagehand, and the bathroom mirror fogs a thumb width higher than I can reach, while a palm clears a coin and slides a patient inch. My phone brightens with unknown. Confirm entry, and I practice the answer I owe for more than 1 room. When it does, I keep my hands off latches that pretend to love me. I don't step into scenes that learn my name without a ticket. I don't answer whistles that arrive a beat late and ask me to be young. In the steady voice the bay taught me, I say, leave the doors closed. For a long, thin moment, the world hums 1 note like a ride that has decided to be kind. A head leans near my left ear and practices the first half of "don't." Then the pipes remember, water the hour lets go of its borrowed number. And whatever was learning my walk-through routes a half beat behind me chooses someone else. Stark and leaves mine to daylight and lies that are paid to tell the truth. Leave the crate-sealed conservator's log unwitnessed. After hours, I used to think museums were immune to ghost humidity at 50%, light at 5-foot candles, paper that stays paper if you ask it nicely. I'm 25, night conservator at a city museum that keeps its valuables and rooms so quiet you can hear varnish think. My job is simple. Monitor climate, backup treatment photos, label mounts, and never uncrate a loan without 3 signatures in daylight. Extra rules from my lead, Alvarez. Don't go into the vault alone. Don't answer knocks you can't source. And if the control tablet offers an after-hours shortcut, you say no, even if the trustees are watching. He smiled like it was folklore. The smile didn't stick. The studio breathes at night. Dehumidifiers exhale patience. The HEPA towers whisper like you're sitting inside a polite lung. The thermal label printer on the workbench spits out a narrow strip by itself at 11:06 p.m. No accession number, no gallery code. Just do not uncrate. Along the edge, ghost gray digits that aren't the hour, 3:13 a.m. The studio clock says 11:06. I press the strip under the magnet that holds our light fastness chart because paper makes rules heavier. 2 knuckles touch the shipping crate. Not wood settling, not the building remembering its brick. Tap tap measured, patient, the crate. S inspection window, a little rectangle of safety glass set into slat shows. My face half a beat latent, behind my shoulder. A second head tilt toward my ear, mouth parted on the first half of don't. I blink until glass learns manners. The control tablet on the cart wakes its home screen without a hand. A pale card sidles to the corner as if it knows it's misbehaving. Expedite intake. It offers a friendly green button you could mistake for permission. I don't press anything. I lower the screen face down like you do with news. The ceiling speaker by the fire strobes clicks. A voice comes through with museum weight, slow and careful as if each word must be lowered into place with 2 fingers. Don't open. Not Alvarez. Not any guard. The voice cities give to bones. I make work with my hands, because hands keep a room together. I'll photograph a 17th century panel in raking light until the crackler tells me what it thinks of time. I add 3 desiccant sachets the size of rabbits to the lone quarantine, their indicator beads bluing like relief. I write climate steady, 50/50ths in the treatment journal, because supervisors like to see that lie in ink. The letters look wet longer than they should. Security cam, E14. The studio feed I keep open in a quarter screen, jitters to black and back. For one frame it shows a close view of a head leaned in toward the lens. Lidded to my left ear, mouth an oval around the first half of don't. The next frame remembers furniture. The crate knocks twice again. Tap tap. The inspection window fogs on the inside. Palm blooms 5. Long ovals and a he-land slides its patient inch before thinning. At 11:19 p.m., my phone, which should be in a locker, buzzes in the drawer. Unknown. Confirm, uncrate, at 3:13. The tiny map sits inside the conservation studio, then behind my chair, then I press the power button until mercy happens. The lock screen lingers just long enough to flash 3:13 and blush back to honest time like a muscle spasm in glass. I take the loan paperwork from the inbox because documents can be armor. The borrower's seal is a gold sun that believes in itself. The lender's restrictions are a paragraph that doesn't. The crate lists an object name that reads like a dare. I write received, sealed, quarantine in pencil, and net the words under a line because pencils are how you talk to the past without shouting. The studio becomes choir. Dehumidifiers, HEPA towers, transformer and the halogen track. My teeth, all of it aligns into one held note that presses the cartilage behind my nose. In that chord, the crate's bolts shiver a fraction like a sleeper scratching, then remember shame. The label printer coughs another strip into my palm, edges damp as if letters sweat. Leave the crate sealed. I do rounds in the vault to remind the building I'm part of its story. The rolling stacks hold 1,000 paper lungs. In a sealed vitrine waiting for mount checks, glass blooms a clean palm from the wrong side, slides thins. The vitrine has never developed weather. I put my own hand to the outside because mammals are old and foolish. Through glass and cold, pressure meets meepolite. Present as if a hand through material agrees, we both exist. A whistle threads through duxa, soft 2-note pattern at the pitch, our head of security uses to call for a door without the radio finding it. It lands a beat late, breath cut from another mouth. I do not answer. The ductwork remembers air. I return to the crate because magnets work even when you refuse them. Someone has traced a small mark in dust along the crate's slots a crescent. Then a straight line like a letter made by a finger that knew enough to be careful. On the floor by my boot, the paint from a line of tape lifts itself and lies back down like a seal practicing the idea of goodbye. The control tablet brightens under its own face and quietly adds a new promise in the corner of its dark screen. Intake assistant available. Underneath, smaller text tucks its chin. Curators notified, climate with intolerance. It isn't lying. It's only telling a story I don't plan to believe in the dark. The camera feed offers the crate's viewpoint for a second. I didn't buy grainy. Like an endoscope sneaked between slats. Darkness inside has grain too. Dust falls in a slow-minded snow. For one frame, the inside shows a head leaned close to the glass from my side, tilted toward my left ear, mouth parted on the first half of don't, and then it remembers being wood and air. The studio clock gives up 8 clicks and regrets none of them. The elevator. At the far end of the floor arrives without a call and opens its mouth a polite inch, as if waiting for me to lean in first. The floor display scrolls through 11 to 12 and then includes 13 with a shrug. Our building pretends it doesn't. Allow. The doors close the way a thought finishes itself. 31 p.m., I notch the crate S shock and tilt indicators in the log, and pretend that numbers change what nights decide. Crate knocks twice. The inspection window fogs a thumb width higher than my mouth can breathe and slides an inch. My phone, dark, discovers a photo in itself. The studio from above my head, my shoulders small in the glow of the workbench. The label that reads, "Do not uncrate," trapped under a magnet like a thorn under glass. No caption. The timestamp wears 3:13 for a heartbeat, then remembers other stories. A security guard texts from another floor, a man who can only express feelings through coffee and check sheets. All good. Mostly, I answer. The bubble under my text carries 3:13 for a second, and then returns the hour like a dog handing over a trick as if it worked. Printer's old, he sends back. The supervisor's absolution for the kind of night that has to borrow a priest. I print a sign because signs are harmless spells. After midnight night, uncrating without 3 signatures. The painter's tape breathes like a small lung and holds on the crate's face. The crate responds with patience. To knuckles on wood, measured the control tablet tries honesty in a different key. Climate drift predicted. Repositioned to Studio B. The button you'd expect sits there, the exact shade of permission that designers love. I key the climate panel instead. The vents remind air to behave. Dehumidifiers try on a deeper note and like how it fits. The camera in the corridor outside the studio switches to night mode and shows a white rectangle where the door is. For one frame, a head leans near the lens and whispers the shape of Don T. Without making any sound the microphone will own. The next frame remembers drywall. The crate's inspection window writes a palm for the 3rd time and slides its inch. Biology has a rule about repetition. Folklore calls that permission. I speak to the crate out loud because ridiculous is still a tool. I say, you can stay closed. The room acts as if I offered it something that weighs less now that it is spoken. At 11:49. The building reconsiders being singular and chooses choir again. Dehumidifiers, HEPA, transformer, the little green heartbeat of the fire panel. One long note that makes my jaw tell my teeth to be friends. In that held breath, the bolt closest to my knee nudges a hair toward unscrew and reconsiders like a dog, reminded it's indoors. The label printer serves one more damp strip as if it has been doing this job in secret for years. Dunt, acknowledged knocks. I tape it near the door handle because hands like stories. I never uncrate at night. I stand a meter away and want to. That's how the shape of resisting works. The crate is only wood and steel. Object inside is only pigment and patience. I did not invite anything else to this transaction. The careful voice in the ceiling speaks again, softer than before. The way people hold fragile ceramics in other people's kitchens. Leave the crate. Sealed, the next 20 minutes were the face of work. I rehouse 2 prints that have been asking for untreated mounts. I label an acid-free envelope that contains a lock of hair from a person who didn't. T agreed to be remembered this way. I make a note on a clipboard in cursive that looks like my mother S and feel older than the lights know how to be. Midnight arrives without bothering to change the temperature. The studio stops pretending it's plural and goes back to being a room. A handprint blooms on the glass again and slides its inch. A shadow moves under the crate as if pressure is an animal. By 12:06, Sleep has a seat in the chair across the room and watches quietly. Print a final label. The ritual type. Hold. The roller squeals like a very small animal and then forgives itself. The elevator stays wherever elevators go when no one needs them to practice swallowing. I think about the people who will put their faces near this object in daylight and try to give it names with their eyes. I think about my lead's rules written without ink on the inside of my ribs. I think about keeping one thing closed through. A night that doesn't like to accept compliments. The camera feed over the loading dock shows a thin fall of what looks like chaff blowing past sodium lights, as if a harvest forgot it belonged outside. Then it remembers concrete. The crate knocks twice. The voice in the ceiling signs off like a teacher closing a book. Don't go. Down. There is nowhere to go down from here except the freight elevator to a floor of collections that don't want anyone has names on them at this hour. The object in the crate continues to be hypothetical. The inspection window continues its 1-inch mercy. The room tries to learn how to be human and finds compromise. A little after 12:41, a power hiccup blinks the exit sign and then blesses us with continuity. For one frame, the camera shows the inside of the inspection window from an angle no lens occupies. The head leans near, tilts toward my left ear, mouth parted on the first half of don't. The frame after that understands contracts. I write quiet night in the log a second time because repetition is a bridge you can walk backward over if you have to. The letters are honest this time. They look wet exactly as long as ink does. The city might have dreams. The museum has agreements. I have a chair that admits me more than you'd expect, at 3:13. Because some hours apply for hard jobs, every indicator in the room blinks once, and holds the climate panel dots. The tiny green life on the smoke sensor, the exit thread, the dehumidifiers, the HEPA, the transformer. My ribs align into one sustained note like machines trying prayer. On the inspection window, 2 perfect palms bloom, facing each other through glass and slide together 1 inch before they thin to memory. The control tablet forgets its suggestions and goes dark like a faithful dog deciding the door is someone else's problem. The careful voice concludes, kind as tools can be, leave the crate. Sealed. Dawn is a rumor that condenses into a responsible color. Alvarez arrives at 6 with coffee and a small sore already forming above his eyebrow from a day he hasn't had yet. Quiet? He asks, which is how people who measure nights ask if you've kept a promise. Mostly, I say, and put the damp strips in his hand. He frowns at do not uncrate like it is a regulation he wishes he had written when he still believed in writing them. Printer's old, he says, the manager's absolution for phenomena, far outside requisitions. He wraps the crate's bolt with 2 knuckles and listens like a doctor takes a chest. Here's nothing the ledger will pay for. And grunts noon, 3 signatures, live stream for the lender. If the system invented buttons, we'll uninvent them with paperwork. At noon, forms and people, we witness the ordinary. The studio is not a church, but we behave like the word might have been invented for rooms like this anyway. The crate opens under soft lights that know where to fall. The object inside is only pigment and patience. On the inner slat, in tiny pencil none of us can own, a sentence waits like a receipt in a book you didn't know was a ledger. Leave the crate sealed. The letters look pressed up from the other side, as if a hand wrote them through wood. I move to afternoon shifts a month later and tell people it's for my sleep. Some weeks around 3:13, my apartment radiator knocks twice like knuckles on a museum door. And the bathroom mirror fogs a thumb width higher than I can reach while a palm clears a coin and slides a patient inch. My phone wakes itself with a message from unknown. Confirm uncrate. I practice the only answer I owe to more than one room in a voice that learned it's surrounded by air at 50%. When it asks, I keep my hands off lids that pretend to love me. I don't break seals for anything that knows my name in the dark. I don to answer whistles that arrive a beat late and offer me a shortcut through rules written in pencil on the inside of my bones in the steady voice the studio taught me. I say, leave the crate sealed. For a long, thin moment, the world hums one note like a climate system that decided to be kind. A head leans near my left ear and practices the first half of don't. Then the pipes. Remember water the hour? Let's go of its borrowed number. And whatever had been learning my inventory routes a half beat behind me chooses someone else. Sloans and leaves mine to daylight and a ledger that knows what closed means. Keep the doers sealed. Shift log. Attendant notes night. I used to think cryonics was too busy being cold to be haunted liquid nitrogen like a tame comet. Steal that means at clipboards that keep their promises. I'm 25 night attendant, at a suburban cryo facility that smells like antiseptic cardboard in winter. My job is simple. Watch vessel levels, top off doers, log boil off, and never unseal a patient vessel after midnight. Extra rules from Dr. Hale: don't acknowledge knocks on the lids without visual. Don't go into the vault alone. And if the control panel suggests a convenience outside protocol, decline. He smiled like it was folklore. The smile didn't stick. By 11:03 p.m., the building has agreed on one breath, vacuum pumps purring, compressors grazing a low E, the soft hiss of nitrogen purges feeding the dream, the thermal label maker. I use for inventory spits a strip without my thumb. Do not unseal. Along the edge in ghost gray digits that aren't the hour, 3:13 a.m. The wall clock insists on 11:03. I tuck the strip beneath the bay console glass because paper makes rules. Way heavier. The first odd thing is polite. 2 knuckles tap a doer, lid measured, not thermal pop. The stainless shows my face a half beat late, and over my shoulder a second head tilts toward my ear. Mouth parted at the first half of don't. I blink until Steele remembers how to lie less. The console wakes a suggestion I didn't call. Quick warm sequence service mode. Hovers in the corner like a dare in a lab coat. I press dismiss, and, to pretend electrons respect tone, the ceiling intercom clicks. A voice arrives slow and careful, like each word is lowered into place with 2 fingers. Don't. Open not. Hail. Not the Daytech. It's the museum voice cities keep for labeling bones. I work anyway, because hands are ballast. I top off Vessel B until the frost line sits where it should, blue vapor roiling at the mouth like a prayer refusing to be seen. I photograph the gauge panel for the log, the hiss, the pump, hum, the compressor align into one long note that counts my teeth for me. In that held chord, the vessel's sea lid shivers against its dog clamps like a sleeper scratching and decides against it. 11:12 p.m. CCTV cam 04. The lens grabs a breath of static, then clears. For one frame, a head leaned near the dome, tilted to my left ear. Mouth rounded on don't. Next frame, stainless and frost. SMS Hale gives attendant. All stable. Attendant gives Hale. Mostly the outgoing time stomp flicks 3:13 and blushes back to honest. Hale gives attendant labeler's temperamental. He means the manager's absolution for nights that need a priest. The tap-tap returns. Left to right across Vessel C's lid measured, a sentence learning punctuation. The porthole of its sight, glass fogs from the inside a perfect palm, 5 long ovals, and a heel then slides 1 inch and thins to frost lace. I lay my own palm to the outside because mammals are old and foolish. Through steel and cold, pressure matches me present, not pushy as if a hand through winter agrees we both exist. 11:19 p.m., my pocket buzzes. Even though the phone should live in a locker, unknown. Confirmed service at 3:13. The map sits inside the cryo bay, then behind my chair, then I hold the power button until mercy. The lock screen lingers just long enough to flash 3:13 and surrender the hour like a muscle spasm in glass. I swab the bay floor around the doers where frost drifts like confetti. Vapor licks my boots, tasting leather. The consoles mutter in polite telemetry. Camo to haul to the vault switches to night mode and shows a rectangle of door, pale as a lie. For a single frame, a head leans near, mouth parted on. Don't without making any sound the mic will own. The next frame remembers drywall. I write quiet night in the paper log because supervisors collect that lie in binders. Letters look wet longer than ink deserves. Incident audio, bay mic, 11:31 p.m. Low broadband hum gives compressor peaks, gives silence notch. 2 knuckles on Vessel C lid. Pause. 2 knuckles on Vessel B intercom. Same careful wait. Leave. Them. Sealed. Background. My breath arrives louder than the room permits. The quick warm prompt returns to the console in a new coat. Service window predicted to 3:13. A smaller line beneath it. Venture camera ready. I turn the monitor off. In the reflection that floats there now, I see me half a beat behind. And behind my shoulder, the tilted head, mouth always at the first half of don't, practicing faithfulness. I take the nitrogen top-off trolley because wheels forgive hesitation, Passing the viewport to the vault, the glass blooms a palm on the far side, high, and slides its inch. The vault light is off. No one breathes in there who needs anything so human. Don't. Go down, the intercom says, softer. The only down from here is the stair to the vault racks and the cold that keeps names for later. 11:41 p.m. Bay audio aligns again hiss. Hum rib 1 sustained note. The vessel's sea lid nudges under clamp tension, then remembers the meaning of no. When I say it to metal like a Balliaveri. Walk the corridor outside to change contexts before contexts change me. The emergency exit opens its mouth a polite inch without a call and shows me the parking lot as a geometry of sodium light. The floor display above the door includes 13. Tonight between 12 and 14, like compromise, the latch remembers its job and closes. 11:49 p.m. The label maker coughs another strip. Edges damp as if letters can sweat. Leave the doors sealed. I fold it into my pocket like a lucky nail. CAMO 4. Freeze frame summary. (0:02) Palm slides 1 inch. 0:03 Vapor curls too slow for physics, like someone showing mercy to time. 0:04 A shadow crosses under the porthole. Not body, not tool. Pressure remembered as shape. 0:05 Nothing anyone will believe. A whistle threads through the return duct to clean notes at the pitch Hale uses when the pager sulks a beat late. Like copy, do not answer. The duct hums itself honest. I print a sign because signs are spells. After midnight, nitrogen monoxide vessel, access without Hale present. The tape breathes like a small lung and sticks to the console. 12:06 a.m. The Boiloff chart draws a tiny mountain where math doesn't belong and dutifully levels. CAMO3 loading, Doc shows a thin fall of chaff blowing past sodium, as if some harvest elsewhere made a pact with our back door. Then, forgets and returns to concrete. Text. Guard lobby. Delivery at 5 can come to bay. Me quarantine lane only. Guard. Copy typing indicator stutters. When his reply lands, a little 313 has haunted the timestamp and gone. The tap-tap returns, patient mapping lids left to right, then right to left, then stopping at vessel C like a knuckle has learned to kneel. I set my palm on the steel. Pressure matches. Not a push, a presence. The intercom, gentle as a teacher, steering a hand away from wet paint. Keep them closed. I work the checklist like a rosary, PPE, pressure, headroom, oxygen sensor. The O alarm on the wall is a steadfast friend at 20.9. The data loggers. Heartbeat lead keeps time for a whole room that forgot. 12:23 a.m. My phone wakes to a photo it took without me. The bay from above, my shoulders small, the console bright with the strip do not unseal, and the analog clock's minute hand insisting 313 in a room that insists otherwise. No caption. The console adopts a different tactic. Technician comfort mode appears as a footer, promising warmer gloves, slower fog. I turn it off by pulling the plug, because sometimes faith needs knives. The ups takes over with dignity. I draft the incident report I hope won't matter. Bay event, unscheduled. Time, approximately 23:03, 2030. Signals. Knocks on lids, inner condensation shaping into palms. Lid clamp creep less than 1 millimeter. Console suggestions outside, SOP, voices on intercom, unknown origin, advising against opening environmental stable. Action made nothing happen. A minute stretches, untangles, returns as a bracelet I don't deserve. Vessel sees sight glass fogs again, a palm higher than breath, slides its inch, vanishes. In the reflection, a head lingers by my left ear like a memory bent wrong and practices the part of a word that keeps lives. 12:41 a.m. The building decides to be choir once more. Aligned hiss hum ribs. The exit sign's green thread brightens as if it's listening. Vessel B's dog clamps sing a microscopic metal note and desist. The ceiling speaker carries the careful voice one last time before the hour, with the famous number clocks in. Leave the doers. Sealed. What I do between then and 3:13 would look like boredom to a god. Check valves, wipe frost, circle once more the room I was hired to be loyal to. The hour arrives dressed in its legend. Every indicator blinks once and holds the logger lead, the O green eye, the exit thread, the ups wink. The bay takes one long breath through all its machines and lets it go. On vessel C's porthole, two perfect palms bloom, facing each other through frost, and slide together 1 inch, thinning to lace. Vessel B answers with its own smaller duet, as if echo is an ethic. The console forgets suggestion and remembers to be a tool. The intercom gives me a kindness I did not earn. Keep the doers. Dawn doesn't so much arrive as change the grammar of the light. Hay walks in at 6 with coffee, in the posture of a person who has asked for money from people who think the future is a pet. Quiet? He asks. The way people who count nights ask if you left the world unaltered. Mostly, I say, and lay the damp strips in his hand. He frowns. I do not unseal the way men frown at regulations they wish they had written before they believed in them. Labeler's old. He says the supervisor's spell for mercy. He raps Vessel C's lid with 2 knuckles, listens like a doctor to a chest, and nods when nothing a ledger would fund replies. We'll schedule verification at noon with 3 sign-offs and a camera, he says. If the system invented buttons while you were asleep, we'll uninvent them with paperwork. At noon. Under honest light and with witnesses, we crack nothing we can't remake. We do not lift lids. We check clamps, gaskets, gauges. On the inside of vessels, he's doggering, in tiny grease pencil none of us owns. A sentence waits like a receipt slipped into a book. Leave the doer sealed. The letters look pressed up from the other side, as if a hand wrote them through steel. A month later, I trade midnights for afternoons and tell people it's for my lungs. Some weeks around 3:13, my apartment radiator knocks twice like a polite clamp. The bathroom mirror fogs a thumb width higher than I can reach while a palm clears a coin and slides a patient inch. My phone brightens to unknown, confirm service, and learns disinterest. When it asks, I keep my hands off lids that pretend to love me. I don't warm anything that learned my name without breathing it. I don't go down into rooms that keep future tense in tanks. In the steady voice the bay taught me, I say, keep the doers sealed, for a long, thin moment the room hums one note like winter deciding to be kind. A head leans by my left ear and practices the first half of don't, and then the pipes remember water the hour lets go of its borrowed number. And whatever was learning my roots a half beat behind me, chooses someone else. Cold and leaves mine to daylight and steel, that means it.